Bless Fantasy Football. Andrew Rogers alongside Sausha Durken. And my golly gee, it's the best time of the year because football is right around the corner. Week 1 kicks off on September 8th, but more importantly, fantasy football drafts are underway. I've already participated in 4 drafts, and I can't wait.
4?
I cannot wait to make it a 5th this coming Sunday.
It'll be my first and only one in 5 years on Sunday, so I'm very excited.
I can't wait to see who you draft.
It'll be interesting because I haven't thought you think about things differently when you're drafting for fantasy football. You watch the games differently, all of that. So it will be interesting because I haven't paid that close of attention in years.
So I'm a Bears fan, and it's interesting that you bring that point up because every week I watch football to watch my fantasy team. I don't watch the Bears anymore. And I haven't watched the Bears since like 2005 when they played the Colts in the Super Bowl and Sexy Rexy was under center and Devin Hester ran the kickoff back. And oh my goodness, the monsters of the Midway on defense. Holy cow, that was a fun year. And we have sucked ever since.
Well, maybe you went out on top when you're in your Bears watching ness.
Well, you know what? Gosh, I'm probably gonna become a Bears, one of the Bears haters, I guess. Because I think I was in 4th grade. Yeah, it was Super Bowl Sunday in 4th grade. And my birthday, so I don't know if you ever did this in grade school where you would bring in like snacks or sweet treats for the rest of the classroom. And so my mom, I always prided myself on having the mom that gave me the best snacks. And I brought in donuts and I got donuts with sprinkles for Bears colors and Colts colors.
Okay.
And we always did this thing in my family growing up where we would pull names out of a hat and like that's the team who you would have for the playoff run. And then my dad would put up $40 and that team would solidify you down the stretch, right? Okay. Well, I had the Colts that year. So in 4th grade Andrew wasn't thinking about his team anymore. He was thinking about $40 because what could $40 get you in 4th grade? It could get you a lot of things.
Right. So many tokens at the
Chuck E.
arcade.
Cheese.
Or that.
Where did you say? Arcade?
Yeah. Well, there was Chuck E. Cheese, but I grew up in Sioux Falls, South Dakota. I don't know if anyone's familiar.
They're essentially the same thing.
But it was an arcade in a mall, like an actual arcade.
You know, me being the type of person I was, and my dad raised me to be somebody that saved all of his money. Right. So I didn't end up using that $40. But I think I put a curse on the Bears.
Yes, this is all your fault.
It could be my fault. But now I just root for players.
How long?
I root for players. And that's why I love fantasy football.
Yes.
Because you get to root for your players. Now, draft position is always something people take into consideration when they show up for drafts. The God Bless Fantasy Football Draft Party Sunday at Hail Varsity Club. Be there. We will be drafting live with 3 very lucky listeners that made their way into the league to play alongside us Hurrdat personalities. But don't be too worried about where you fall in draft order. Statistically, if you get a top 3 pick, you are inclined to win the league. Now that is your Jonathan Taylors, your Derrick Henrys, Christian McCaffreys, players of that nature. Notice how I said 3 running backs. Do not be that guy or gal that takes anything other than a running back in the top 3 position.
Or do what you want.
Or do what you want and allow me at pick 6 to get somebody really good. Now, there's money to be made at every spot, though. Yes. So fantasypoint.com's Scott Barrett found, like I said, that the top 3 pick has 114% edge on those that have a bottom 3 pick. But if you're in a non-PPR or PPR draft, that's where that normally falls. If you're in an auction draft, which I really love auction drafts because you can be anywhere in the draft order and be okay because people will not use up all of their cap to get 2 or 3 of the top running backs. They're going to start grabbing maybe in the 2nd or 3rd round, those guys that fall middle tier. Right. So auction drafts are great for that reason of you don't have to worry about draft position. But fantasy football isn't as simple as it looks. And I honestly love drafting from the 4 to 6 range because you get the turn. And what I mean by that is you get the value picks. You get those falling value picks that get to you because by the time you're picking, you don't have to worry about drafting 17 picks later.
Yeah.
If you're at 5, you get to then draft 10 picks later. And then you just keep falling and following that same order. It's very consistent. And if I'm picking, say, number 1 pick, I draft Jonathan Taylor. Well, now I don't have a pick until 21.
Yeah.
And 2021. So at this point, now I'm looking at my team and I'm like, okay, who do I draft? Because I draft 2 of the next best guys that I need to fill needs, but now I got to wait 20 more picks.
You have to wait, and you're not guaranteed who was on your list to pick.
And if you had an idea of taking somebody like Brandon Cooks, Amari Cooper, Chris Godwin, somewhere in the middle range, and now you have to decide, okay, I need a tight end, a running back, and a receiver, and it's pick 7 for me. So it's my 7th round pick. I know I have 7, 8 back to back, but then I got to wait till 9. Okay, you take TJ Hawkinson. Good tight end, you filled your need. But now who do you take? Because you still need to fill your flex, and you still need to get another good, solid running back to back up your guys. So do you take a Ramondre Stevenson at this point? Do you take a Brandon Ayuk at this point? Now you have that, okay, if I don't take one of these guys, they're not going to be there.
Right.
So that's why I really love picking in that middle tier, because I don't have to worry about strategically playing against myself at that point in the draft.
I think that the best draft I ever had, I was the fifth pick. And it was amazing because I ended up building the exact team that I pretty much wanted for the most part. Like even when you're in, the very, very last, like it can get a little hairy.
Sure can.
Last position.
Well, if you love picking at the corners, great. That's not me. That's the 1 in 10 picks, or even the 2 and 9, because you get those back-to-back picks. But I love falling in the middle position because you can get that falling value. Now, it's probably too late to add a punishment to our fantasy football league. God bless fantasy football.
I don't think it's too late. It's never too late.
You know what? You're right. It's never too late. Probably too late to tell people that already signed up and have committed their lives to us for the next 18 weeks of football. But what are some of your favorite fantasy football punishments? And I put that question out on social media today. You can follow us at Hurrdat Sports, or you can follow my personal page at Andrew Rogers TV. Sausha, are you S_Durken?
On Instagram,
anywhere
on Twitter. I'm on Twitter. I'm Sausha72, SAUSHA.
Okay. There you go. Sausha72 on Twitter. On Instagram, S_Durken. I think I got that right.
I'd have to look.
And I'm at A-Raj Sports. But anywhere else, follow us at Hurrdat Sports, because that's where we put all of these prompts for you guys to be involved. It's a great spot on game days to ask your starter sit questions. If you've been offered a trade and you need some help on it, or even just the outlook on games. Come to God Bless Fantasy Football here in the podcast app or wherever you get your podcasts, and we'll provide all those things. But when it comes to fantasy football punishments, we asked what your favorites were or what the best were, and I heard a few. Some of the fan favorites were taking the SAT or the ACT. I can't imagine doing that as an adult. Another one I heard was take a giant stuffed animal on a date. So can you imagine like taking,
I've seen that one come
I don't know, Winnie the Pooh, and you go to Olive Garden and you show up with a bear and you act like,
you're actually
you have to pay for 2 meals.
To them.
You got to pay for 2 meals, and you have to talk to a bear the whole time.
That's a pretty good one. I like that.
Busking for a night on the street. That's kind of funny. Come on. That's funny.
I don't know what that means.
Busk? Like that's like playing like an instrument. Or
okay. I gotcha.
Painting yourself silver and acting like you're a statue.
I feel like that'd be kind of fun.
It could be fun, but it's even more fun if you don't have to cover yourself in glitter and paint.
Yeah, I suppose.
Open mic night. That's a great one.
Yeah.
Playing a U.S. Open qualifier was another one. There was a guy in a league that had to play in Kansas City's qualifier, and he took a tee shot like 10 feet from the hole. And can you imagine playing in front of people?
No.
Or in
I don't even like it when
the
like
next best golfers.
You're playing right. I don't even like it when you're playing with like a foursome and there's people watching you when you're teeing off. I can't imagine a whole crowd.
Yeah, there's a lot of stress,
let alone
there.
Professionals. Jeez Louise.
Now, my favorite fantasy football punishment of all time is the Waffle House Marathon.
Okay. I said before we started recording, you're going to have to explain this to me because I have not heard of this.
So it also could be a restaurant marathon. It doesn't have to be just Waffle House, but it has to be a place where there's an iconic item on the menu that you can eat to shave off time. So the marathon is you have 24 hours and you have to be at Waffle House the entire time for 24 hours. But every waffle you eat shaves off an hour.
Oh, okay.
So you could be there for 12 hours if you ate 12 waffles.
Or you could be there for...
You could be there for 24 hours if you hate waffles.
Yeah, that would suck.
But there is a guy that I know that had to do the Waffle House Marathon fantasy football punishment, and it was hysterical.
Have they ever eaten
live
there
streamed it.
again?
Yeah, he still does. Yeah, he still does.
I wouldn't
Waffle
know
House
if
is pretty good. I actually used to crap on Waffle House all the time because it never looks like a very fine establishment to step into. It doesn't look very clean on the outside, but once you get on the inside, it's not too shabby. I mean, most restaurants are kind of the same way.
Yeah.
I mean, you can't just identify one restaurant and say that that's not every restaurant out there. But he did the Waffle House Marathon, and it was hilarious watching him live stream the entire thing. So I really enjoyed that one. There was another friend group of mine that did a music video, and I can't remember what the song was, but it was a Miley Cyrus song, and he was
Party in the USA?
Maybe it was that. I don't want to confirm or deny, but we had to wash a car during it. So he was doing like a sexy, like white tee and jean shorts car wash, and they were doing slow motion effects. It was really funny. But I can't imagine being the star of that show. A Ride to Nowhere. That's a good one. One of my favorites.
You just get dropped off somewhere.
So that is what I initially thought it was when I first heard about this punishment, but it actually is you pick a town. So whether it's in driving distance. So if since we're in Omaha, you would pick like Chicago, because you can get there in 8 hours. You pick St. Louis, which is 6.5 hours. You pick Denver, whatever it is. And the person who loses has to drive there, but they can only bring their cell phone for emergencies. So you can't use it for anything else. So
like
you can't
directions.
No, you can't use it for directions. You can't use it for Spotify reasons. You can't. And then you have to bring a disposable camera and act like a tourist when you get there and then drive straight back. So like you can't stop and stay the night. You just have to drive there and drive back. That would be a miserable one, especially with how gas prices are nowadays.
Oh, no kidding.
And then a lemonade stand I heard is pretty funny because if Sausha loses, you have to go to a heavily populated area. So I would say like Old Market on a Saturday here in Omaha. You would set up your lemonade stand if it is even legal. And all the proceeds that you make go back to the league. So like you have to then pay out the rest of the 9 people with your hard-earned money. And you can't have that Crystal Light crap. You have to have like good, solid,
fresh squeezed
Country
lemonade?
Times lemonade or freshly squeezed lemonade. I think Country Times is up there.
It comes in, isn't it just time? No S. Anyway, it comes in like a little screw top thing. Yeah. You can get it for pretty.
Yeah, just not Crystal Light. There's not, don't pour that into just a water bottle for people. Don't be that person. There are a lot of hurtful punishments out there too, like tattoo piercings or paintball challenges or even participating in combine drills.
That would be kind of funny.
The combine drills?
Yeah.
I was hoping you were thinking that one over like a tattoo or a piercing.
Yeah, well, clearly I don't have issues with that.
Well, I'm not thinking about that. I'm thinking more of like what tattoo somebody is going to put on your body.
Like if I had to get a poop emoji tattooed on me permanently, I might not be too happy about that.
Now, the combine drills, though, I mean, I can't imagine how much I'd hurt after.
Oh, yeah. You'd be like sleeping or in a full body cast for like a week.
Not fun. Not fun, but there's a lot of good punishments out there. So we would love to still hear from you on your punishments. We'll talk about them all year long. Now, fantasy football names is another big thing to have nailed down before your draft. I have a lot, and I'm going to pull up my phone here because there are a lot of creative people in the fantasy leagues that I'm in, and I don't want to just cop out and go online and just look up these things. So we're in a dynasty league, and there's a guy that has CD's nuts. For
like,
CeeDee Lamb was a big one. Suck My Dak was another big one. And then there's the S'mores. And I'm trying, I guess he has two players on his team that have the last name Moore. Okay, so he went with S'mores. Okay. Shake and Bake is a good one from one of the best movies of all time. Sausha?
Well, I think mine's pretty good. Blunt Force Trauma.
No, I was going to say Talladega Nights. I was hoping you would say
the name of the movie. I thought you were like, hey, because I was looking through our fantasy football league for one of the best ones in our league. My bad.
Oh my goodness.
Talladega Nights.
Talladega Nights. And you said Blunt Force Trauma. That's a great one. One of mine is Great Guy Huge Bush. That's a good name, right? That's good. Hauling Goats.
You like that?
Yep. For Brees Hall. Former Cyclone for all of those people out there.
This has to be Jill Thomas. Jill's slam dunk team.
That has to be the automated one that they give you. Like she just signs up because another guy in my brother actually in another league is Joseph's Reasonable Team. And I kind of like the names that Yahoo and ESPN just pitched to you off the bat. Who's gonna choose that? Who's gonna choose Andrew's awesome team? What am I, 7?
Yes.
Like, give me something good.
Right. I do have to say, Winners Take All is pretty damn good. Especially It's Innocent Till Tipsy, which is Danielle and Max. But they drink wine on their podcast every week. So I thought that was pretty funny.
Just a lot of good fantasy football names out there. So feel free to share those to us on social media. We'd love to even just talk about them per episode. So just send them in. I don't even care if it's week 7 or if it's actually during draft time. Just send them in. I would love to talk about those names. Now let's get into this, because when it comes to who to draft, when to draft them, are they a good value? Are they a dark horse? I'm going to tell you right now, just certain guys to focus on. Because look, you in the middle rounds, you can draft a quarterback whenever you really want to, but don't focus on a quarterback too much when you can draft a running back or receiver that can really benefit your team for the long run. And remember, on draft day, that is not going to be your final team at the end of the year. Move pieces around. Never get attached to your team. It's something that I've succumbed to before. It's what other fantasy players have done before. But always know that you can move pieces around and always find a better option to fill the needs on your team. So when you look at quarterbacks, running backs, wide receivers, and tight ends, we'll focus more on the running backs, wide receivers, and tight ends because, like I said, you can always get somebody from the 10 to 15 range in a draft. And some of those guys this year, Aaron Rodgers, Matthew Stafford, Kirk Cousins, they're all falling in that 10 to 15 range. You can always pair a Kirk Cousins with a Trey Lance who's going higher than him. You can pair him with, I don't know, Russell Wilson if you really want to. Those guys are falling in the back end of the 10 to 15 range. There is plenty of room in a league where you only need one quarterback to fill that spot. And you can fill them at any time. Really, you can. I'd be fine with Ryan Tannehill for most of the season if it came to it. So focusing on running backs, wide receivers, and tight ends are big. The two that are more prestigious than the third is running back and wide receiver. Now, there's value picks, there's must grabs, and there's dark horses. Here's my list. David Montgomery for one. I don't know why this guy is being just completely hated on. This is a kid that's in the perfect spot to succeed. Okay. He has the easiest strength of schedule this season for any running back. Any running back. I know the Bears have one of the worst offensive lines in the league, but they have a new head coach that, even though in talks is saying that the offense could be shuffled up more, you may see more Khalil Herbert than David Montgomery. You won't. David Montgomery is more talented than Khalil Herbert. He will be the starting running back. He will be fed the rock, and he will get you over 898 yards. I know I went pretty exact there, and 9 touchdowns. I'm telling you, this is a guy that you're not going to pass on when he falls to you in the 5th, 6th, 7th round. Also, a guy to watch out for, Clyde Edwards-Helaire. Now, the Chiefs are talking about how they may use 4 running backs this year. They won't. No NFL team uses 4 running backs. They will stick to 2. And right now it's looking like Clyde Edwards-Helaire and Isaiah Pacheco. Those 2 are the guys to go after. Now, if I'm Ronald Jones, I'm a little bit uneasy with how the Chiefs are looking at me in the system. So maybe he will splurge right before this season begins. But as of right now, Clyde Edwards-Helaire will be the guy to get the football. And he's poised to have a breakout year. He really is. So he's never had a healthy offseason, right? He came into the league. He put up 42 fantasy points in a point per rush league, and that would probably equate to 18 to 24 points somewhere in there for just a standard PPR league. And then in a non-PPR league, you're looking at an easy 16 points out of a kid that ran for 100 plus yards and multiple touchdowns. I think it was multiple touchdowns in his first game. It may have just been 1 touchdown, but still, he had a great first game. He reminds me of Maurice Jones-Drew. Maybe not as buff, but His size and the way that he works through the line, he has awesome hands. He's got one of the best quarterbacks in the league with him. He is poised to have his breakout come this year, and there's really nobody behind him to take those carries away anymore. I know people are high on Pacheco. I really do. But the more I look at Clyde Edwards-Helaire and how he's worked to get himself back in the offseason, the more I find him to be the option to grab. And look, I'm grabbing this guy at any point in the 7th or 8th round. I really am. His ADP, Clyde Edwards-Helaire, right now is, what's that? He's 87th best on the list. So they're looking at him in the 8th round. If I can get a starting running back in the 8th round on one of the best teams in football, I'll take my chance. I really will. I'll take my chance over a mediocre tight end or a decent starting quarterback or even a back-end wide receiver. I'm taking Clyde Edwards-Helaire at this point. I think he's somebody that you can get great value with. Now, my last running back on that list, Tony Pollard. Ezekiel Elliott hasn't been the guy that he's been in the past. He had some hiccups a couple of years ago when he got suspended. Tony Pollard has really come to be one of the most used backup running backs in football, even with a guy like Ezekiel Elliott and the name that he carries. He is somebody that I'm looking to snag. I think he's owned by 89% of all leagues in Yahoo formats. He's just somebody that has great value at the pick that you can get him at. Wide receivers, Mike Williams, Deontay Johnson, and Michael Thomas are my value picks. Mike Williams will go probably in the 3rd round, so you can expect that. So he may even be one of those guys that you could factor into the must-grab category. But Mike Williams is only separated by Keenan Allen by roughly 40 fantasy points this year. That's awesome when you can get a wide receiver on a team that isn't even the lead option that is looked at as getting 220, 240 points this season for fantasy football PPR. I mean, that I'm all about it. I'm all about grabbing this guy in the 3rd or 4th round, even if you can, because people in the past haven't been high on Mike Williams because he's all Mr. 3 catches for 95 yards and he'll probably get a touchdown in there. If you can grab him even in the 5th round, oh my gosh, what a steal he would be. What value you can get out of a guy like Mike Williams this year. Deontay Johnson is another one of those receivers that kind of has a lot of question marks surrounding him. No real surety at quarterback. You have Mitchell Trubisky, you have Kenny Pickett, but Deontay Johnson has always found a way to get his touches. Always. He did that when Juju Smith-Schuster was in Pittsburgh. He will be a guy that gets open. When he stays healthy, he will be on the football field. Who else is there? Chase Claypool? Chase Claypool's good. I'm not going to take that away from Chase, but Deontay Johnson to me is just somebody that you can feed into any spot in that offense to be successful. Michael Thomas, one of the best wide receivers in NFL history, at least when Drew Brees was there. He's somebody that I'm going to grab in the 9th round. I just will. I'm confident that he can be back to full form. Jameis Winston has proven to stop throwing mostly interceptions and has a better passer rating projected this year in New Orleans. I think he's going to be a good spot for Michael Thomas to really come alive again. I think this is the time that you grab Michael Thomas and at least just take a chance. In the 9th round, who are you really passing up on at this point? I'm going after a guy like Michael Thomas over a guy like Darnell Mooney in the Bears offense, over Elijah Moore in the Jets offense. Tight ends, TJ Hawkinson and Zach Ertz are my value picks. But like I said, I don't really want to go too much into tight ends because outside of the top 4, and when I say that, it's Travis Kelce, it's Kyle Pitts, it's George Kittle, it's Darren Waller, Mark Andrews, top 5. Outside of those guys, you can really be fine with any tight end. Nobody's drafting 2 tight ends in your fantasy league unless you have 2 spots for it. You're not going to use a flex for a tight end. Hardly any team does that unless you see a guy draft Mark Andrews and Travis Kelce, which to me, there's some irregularity to it. So I kind of like that, but I would rather put a receiver in that spot that has a tendency to get more catches per game in a point per reception league than I would put a tight end there. But keep an eye on TJ Hawkinson and Zach Ertz. I really like TJ Hawkinson this year. I think he's a great value pick. Must grabs, DeAndre Swift, Nick Chubb, and Alvin Kamara. Okay, these are guys that Swift could be a first rounder, right? But Nick Chubb and Kamara, these guys I've seen fall in the top end of the 2nd round. I love Nick Chubb this year. That is a run-heavy offense, especially now that Deshaun Watson isn't going to play. right? He's not going to play at least for the majority of this season. Now you have Jacoby Brissett. They're going to feed Nick Chubb the ball. They'll feed Kareem Hunt the ball. But Nick Chubb has always been a guy to me that stands out more than Kareem Hunt. When he played at Georgia, he was an outstanding running back in the SEC. Kareem Hunt was great at Toledo, and he was great with the Chiefs before, he went through some obstacles and landed on the Browns team. But Nick Chubb will be the lead back there. He will get the football 18 to 20 times a game. You have my word. He's a guy that I am grabbing no matter what. Plus, they have the second easiest strength of schedule for running backs. So I'm all about finding ways to get my running back the best chance at production. And Alvin Kamara is another one. Now he's facing felony charges. But as far as I've seen and all the reports lead, it doesn't look like he's getting suspended this year. So I like Alvin Kamara at pick 18, pick 19. I've seen him fall to even the third round, which is crazy because this is a guy that was looked at as a top 4 running back last year. So great must-grab guys to get in the second round. I know I didn't really give you anything deeper, but wait till you hear my dark horses, you'll understand. Tight end, Kyle Pitts. I love this guy. I think he is the tight end to break out this year. He had 1 touchdown last year, but he had over 1,000 yards receiving. With Marcus Mariota there, he seems to really like Kyle Pitts. In the last preseason game that they had, he had 1 catch for 56 yards at one point. He really found a connection with Kyle Pitts. So I like the dynamic there in Atlanta. Wide receivers, Chris Godwin, Brandon Ayuk, and Brandon Cooks. Okay. You may be thinking, why Brandon Cooks? Doesn't he have Davis Mills? Guys, Davis Mills. Let's talk about Davis Mills real fast. This is a guy that stepped up last year, played 11 games. He had over 2,600 passing yards. He threw for 16 touchdowns. Now, the picks were there. Remember, he had 10 picks. I'm not forgetting about that. It's less than ideal. But when you look at a guy like Brandon Cooks and the teams that he's played on, Drew Brees' Saints, and now he's in Houston. He played under Deshaun Watson. Am I lying about that? No, he played under Deshaun Watson. But now you have Davis Mills, right? Davis Mills completed 66.8% of his passes last year. Brandon Cooks is that receiver that always ends up with 1,000 yards. Always. Tell me how. Producer Cam, tell me how. He can't, but he does. He's going to end up with 1,000 yards and 6 touchdowns or 7 touchdowns. That's what Brandon Cooks does. He is a great must-grab player at the wide receiver position, and you guys are going to like this. I'm telling you. Brandon Cooks, he is 74th on the all-players list. Now, his ADP, I think, is 68. But people sleep on Brandon Cooks because he's on the Texans and because he is getting to a veteran age. But I like Brandon Cooks, and I'll take Brandon Cooks on my team at any point. 93% owned in most fantasy formats. He's a guy that I really like. Now, Brandon Ayuk was the other one that I said. I mentioned Chris Godwin. Chris Godwin's kind of an easy choice to pick. With Tom Brady kind of in Tampa Bay, who knows if he was on The Masked Singer or not. He claims that he wasn't, but he was taking some time away. And why I like Chris Godwin, I know he's coming back from the ACL tear and the MCL sprain, but Mike Evans gets hurt every year. And Russell Gage just got hurt. Julio Jones hasn't been Julio Jones since he had the MVP season when the Falcons lost to Tom Brady in the Super Bowl. 28-3 was the third quarter score for those that do not remember. But Julio Jones is also a guy that gets hurt all the time. So I like a healthy Chris Godwin who's projected to come back on week 1, and another guy that people are scared to draft, but I'm not at the pick that he's coming in at. Now, Brandon Ayuk was my last one because he last year had a season to forget. His rookie year, awesome. Let's go through the Brandon Ayuk stats, shall we? So Brandon Ayuk, in his first year in the league, had 826 yards. 748 yards, 5 touchdowns. And he had 6 rushing attempts for 77 yards. And he hit per average per catch was around 12.5. Now, last year, he didn't look like the same guy because Brandon Ayuk is also heavily used in special teams. But last year, he still managed to get 826 yards. He managed 5 touchdowns. So he's been consistent, but he didn't look like Brandon Ayuk of year one. Everything this offseason is pointing to Brandon Ayuk of year one. And that was his rookie year. So of course he's going to get better as he develops as an NFL receiver. But the Brandon Ayuk this year has gained such a connection with Trey Lance that I absolutely adore this guy. Adore this guy when he comes in. So I was looking at something today, and I want to share it with everybody at home. Brandon Ayuk is one season removed from a summer in which he appeared to fall out of Kyle Shanahan's favor, right? Reports this summer were remarkably different. At first, they were the same, but now they're becoming different. They're calling him a still sizzling wide receiver. Impressive rookie year, kind of impressive close to second year, but guys, he's a third-year pro now. He's got Trey Lance throwing him the football, a better quarterback than Jimmy Garoppolo, and everybody knows that out there. They're giving Trey Lance the football. He's gained a connection with Brandon Ayuk. This is a guy you draft. Say it with me. Draft Brandon Ayuk. He's falling in the 9th round in most drafts, guys. This is a kid that you do not want to sleep on. Must grab. Finally, my dark horses. Running backs. You're going to be like, Andrew, why? Why Khalil Herbert? You just talked about drafting David Montgomery. Why would I draft Khalil Herbert? Well, I'm going to go with the reports. I'm going to say handcuff David Montgomery when you draft him in the 5th round. Get Khalil Herbert later on in the draft. Don't reach for him. Get him at his average draft position, and it'll show that whenever you're drafting. Most are online drafts, but if it is an offline draft, I can tell you that Khalil Herbert is way down the list. I'm going to look this up just so everybody knows. Herbie fully loaded. He doesn't even fall in the top 224 players. That's not true. There's no way. Fantasy football calculator, you lie. Khalil Herbert's better than that. Don't listen to this. Get Khalil Herbert as your handcuff. He will be somebody that gets used in this Bears offense, but don't overlook him and say he's going to be the starting running back. That's all I want to tell you. Now, Dameon Pierce is my favorite dark horse. He has emerged as the starting running back for Houston. He is, he was behind Marlon Mack for the longest time. And I'm like, Dameon Pierce is somebody that has really proved himself this offseason. He came from Florida. He was a high draft pick. He was drafted in the 4th round. Wasn't overly high, but there have been running backs that have emerged from that 3rd, 4th, 5th round area. We've seen that with a guy I already mentioned, Kareem Hunt, in his first year with the Chiefs. He went nuts. Dameon Pierce is a guy that they like really out of the passing game and out of the rush game. He's just somebody that I'm snagging because he's a starting running back, and you can get him super late in a draft. He has great must-grab dark horse value. I'll combine 2 categories there. Lastly, Ramondre Stevenson, really like him. They're calling him the next James White in New England. So it's kind of hard not to back a guy like him. Damian Harris hasn't been overly impressive since he was given the starting role. So I'm good with drafting Ramondre Stevenson and even starting him in a flex position in most leagues. Now, wide receivers, dark horses, Amari Cooper. Andrew, how is a name like Amari Cooper a dark horse? Well, when you have Jacoby Brissett throwing you the football, you kind of need a little bit of extra love in the undervalued category. Amari Cooper, look, he's not what he was when he was in Oakland. He's not what he was when he was in Dallas. But don't forget, Amari Cooper is still the only option in Cleveland, the only one. They got rid of Jarvis Landry. You have Donovan Peoples-Jones still there. You have David Njoku, who hasn't lived up to his hype. And you have that, really impressive running back core. Now, you may think they're going to run the ball more than they're going to throw the ball. But guess what? When you're losing in games, which the Browns are projected to do, you're going to throw the ball more than you're going to run the ball. Unless you're getting a ton of first downs and a lot of touchdowns out of your 2 boys back there. So I really like Amari Cooper. Darnell Mooney's another one. The Bears aren't going to be winning a lot of games, but he is one of the best wide receivers on the football field. He has been overly impressive in preseason and in the offseason. He does everything he can when the ball's in his hands, but when the ball's not in his hands, it doesn't look like Darnell Mooney's doing much. But they just need to keep feeding him the football because he is in an awesome position to break out with Justin Fields as long as that offensive line can provide him enough pocket pass time to get the football out of his hands. Christian Kirk is another one. He is a guy that is now in Jacksonville, but also one of the only options in Jacksonville. Now, I am one of the biggest haters on Trevor Lawrence. I don't think Trevor Lawrence is going to pan out, but do I think Trevor Lawrence can be productive enough to give Christian Kirk his touches? I do. I really do. Laviska Shenault is not the guy they thought he could be. And there's nobody else on that receiving core that really lives up to the Christian Kirk, I guess, standpoint, element. I really like Christian Kirk this year. And I think, Matthew Berry said that he had him 84th on the list. I have Christian Kirk a little bit lower, probably closer to the 90s, maybe even the low hundreds. But if you're looking at a guy like Matthew Berry talking about him being as high as he is, I'll trust the guru. I'll take Matthew Berry and Christian Kirk up on that offer at, if I can get him at value in the 9th round, I will. If I have to take him in the 8th round, I may. Who knows? Who knows who's going to be available in your drafts, because all of them are different. Some rookies I really like, Sky Moore and Treylon Burks. Sky Moore is easy to like because his road is paved to be the next Tyreek Hill. So just keep that in mind. If I'm making any comparison, I'd make him Tyreek Hill. But Treylon Burks is kind of that big question mark. Treylon Burks is somebody that had a bunch of hype this offseason, was supposed to be the next big thing, supposed to be the next A.J. Brown. And look where he is at right now. He's dealing with injury. He's playing 4th quarters of preseason football. They're talking about him being inconsistent. Have no fear. Andrew Rogers is here to tell you that Treylon Burks is the man to pick at any point late in the draft. Look, guys, I know that he hasn't really come to full form, but if I can get Treylon Burks in the 10th round, 11th round, 12th round, I may even stretch to the 9th round. I like Treylon Burks. I'm high on him this year. I really think he can come all together. Robert Woods is going to lead off as the top option, but by week 6, you're going to look at Treylon Burks the rest of the way. He's going to be the guy to snag. Tight ends, Austin Hooper, Irv Smith Jr. I really like him and the red zone threat he presents for Minneapolis this year. And Pat Freiermuth. Why I like Austin Hooper. So Austin Hooper was a big name to draft a couple of years ago after his breakout year in Atlanta. But now Austin Hooper finds himself on the Tennessee Titans. Ryan Tannehill loves his tight ends. He's proven that before. He peppered Delaney Walker when he was there. I like Austin Hooper in the position that he's in. He really likes going after his tight ends. And that's why I think if you can get Austin Hooper with your last pick, if you like 2 tight ends, or if you just watch him on the waivers when he has a good matchup, I like Austin Hooper in most weeks. Again, the Browns have one of the easiest schedules in football. Looking at strength of schedule for all teams, you're looking at did I say the Browns? He used to be on the Browns. It's Tennessee. Let me retract that statement real fast. Tennessee is the 2nd easiest schedule for tight ends this year. I like Austin Hooper. If Treylon Burks doesn't pan out like they want him to be, you're going to look at a guy like Austin Hooper and say, thank God Andrew told me to draft him with my last pick. Now, those are my rankings. You can catch all of the rankings on our website at Hurrdat Sports. I could go on and on about these players. I really could. I look at fantasy news all the time. I look at where people are. I look at positioning. And, I'm not going to sit here and just educate you on average draft position. You guys can look that up anywhere. But what I want to do is provide you just names to look for at certain points in your draft so that you can be confident when you make that selection and know that that person is going to pan out for you. Again, this Sunday will be our 2nd episode, our draft party over at Hail Varsity Club. If you're in the Omaha area, please join us. I would love to entertain you for 3 hours during our fantasy football draft party. All proceeds that we raise in this league go to Team Jack, a tremendous organization to help kids with brain cancer. And they just do such a good job for the community. So we're really, really excited to be a partner and supporter of them in this effort. Now, catch everything you need every Tuesday before Waiver Wire Pickups and every Sunday with me. It's game day. And I can't wait for September 11th. First weekend of NFL football games. It is going to be an exciting time. God bless fantasy football for all insight into winning your fantasy football league. Remember, there are many things a man can do with his time, but none are better than this. God bless you, and God bless fantasy football.